Welcome to the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another great guest. She is a very, very talented individual, and she's also been highly recommended by a lot of people, mainly because she is very, very good at what she does. She's been helping a lot of people get away from the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle into an abundant lifestyle, and also allowing them to live the life of their dreams. She's been involved with commercial private markets, early stage companies in various different industries, such as alternative energy, real estate, financial technology, and of course, private equity. But that's not all. She's also the author of the book Making Money is Simple, which I'm sure a lot of people are interested in because everybody wants to make money. As the simpler, the better. Um, that's not all, because she is also a very, very talented opera singer. And it's not every day I could say that I'm talking to somebody who's performed in front of the Pope and also the President as well. And now she also goes out there and supports a lot of early talents, navigating and developing their careers. So please welcome financial coach, author, and opera singer, Ms. Veronica Deralleau.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate it. Nice to speak with you today, Fong.
Hey, awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Uh, it's always incredible to see people's journeys from what they were doing to what they are doing now. And from what I can see, you like financial coaching and business coaching and stuff like that was not really your path. Your path was like performance and arts and all that kind of stuff. So share with us that journey, that origin story of who you are and how you got to where you are today.
Sure thing. So I graduated during the financial recession in 2009, and I had wanted to be an opera singer since I was a young girl. I actually started out as a violinist as well, and then funny enough, my mom was like, "You took all those violin lessons, and then you end up being a singer? Like, what the heck?" So so yeah, I went to college and quickly a teacher of mine said I should look into opera. And so that's what I studied. However, my mom is very practical. She was an immigrant from the Philippines and a single mother. And so super practical. During my college years, she was like, "Hey, I think you should do something other than music as well." Like, so I did a dual major in economics and music. And then I graduated and was in the financial recession. So the jobs that were available kind of out of college were sales and insurance. And I was lucky enough to start working with an early stage startup in the solar industry, which was very nascent in New York those days, and quickly fell in love with startup companies and got to see the full gamut of, what is it to work on deals and put together pro forma and do marketing and do operations. So really got to wear a lot of hats with that. And then that fit nicely with my music because I could be a contractor for the company. They allowed me to do 1099, also do auditions. And so I would sing at night and take gigs like that. And it really, when you are in the performing arts, you are an independent contractor. And so those business skills are really good to have anyway. So I think that I didn't appreciate that until later in life, but that's sort of how I got my start in both business and music. The business was to sort of support myself, but then I quickly fell in love with that early stage startup kind of where you get to wear a lot of hats and tackle a lot of different things. And
I
then,
can
okay, so yeah, sorry, go
I
ahead.
mean, I can only imagine that time period, or and maybe even now, where you were working full time on all the business stuff, and then at night you're doing another full-time gig because you're out there performing, you're out there like networking and doing all that stuff. How do you manage all that during that period of time of like busyness?
Yes, I feel like it's come to a crescendo as of now because I've like thrown in like another thing with my financial coaching business. But I have over the time, over this, 15-year period plus, become a very good project manager, and I'm doing that at a financial technology company right now where I'm a program manager for the office of the CEO as well. And you just become very good at managing your time. And as you know, like when you have priorities in life, you just have to carve out the time. And so you start with those priorities, and then kind of, I've had to figure out over time, like what things can I replace comfortably. So, kind of tearing my hair out this year, like, how do I do all of the things, manage a house, work full time, have this business, continue singing, and you just have to prioritize, like, what are the highest leverage activities that I can do? What are things that I can maybe outsource? And you just have to figure it out.
How do you, okay, so let's say if the singing side gave you an opportunity that you're like, I can't refuse this. Yet the business side also has something that you can't refuse this. How do you decide which one you go to?
Yeah, I think that you can there are seasons for things. I think that you have to, eventually have to choose. And that's been one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn as my both of my careers have matured is saying no. So I've learned that I've been singing for a long time, and so uh those opportunities that truly excite me are the ones that I'm going to say yes to. And luckily those are booked a year plus in advance. So and you can plan around them. And then I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty booked up and it requires a lot of preparation in advance to take music gigs. And so I kind of know where my cap is at. It's funny because we always talk about scalability on the business side and like business systems. Music and performing arts is like inherently non-scalable. So you have to manage your time and really I've gotten to the point in that career where I can say no to things. So that's very nice. And so the opportunities that truly excite me are the ones I'm going to say yes to. My financial coaching business is more early stage. So my first year priority for that business was let me test things. So I'm saying yes to a lot more things on the financial coaching side. And then same thing with my like just corporate business career that I can be more choosy because I've been in it for 20 years. So I'm saying yes to things that excite me and no kind of default no to everything else.
Right? Time management is one thing. Energy management is another thing. Like you could manage your time. Yes, I book this off, book this off,
Mm.
book this off, but you still have to be there. You still have to be excited about it. You still have to have the energy, especially in performance. If you're half asleep, that doesn't work. So how do you keep your energy up? Like, what's your sleep routine? It sounds like it's only 2 hours.
Yeah, so I think that I've heard a quote recently that, yeah, a lot of activities are the ones that de-energize you because they're just like, they don't light you up. So you have to be cognizant of that. And so I I do this whole like time blocking exercise. I do a lot of planning from month to month where I do physical calendars, frankly, where I'm like trying to fit all the things in and I have to I have natural caps. Like if I take a physical singing thing, that requires travel, that requires preparation. So I have a kind of a natural, like I'm only going to take one or I'm only going to take two in any given month. And then I'm planning activities like, okay, I need to plan for preparation here and I need to. So my typical operating rhythm is I have to fit my workouts in the morning, otherwise they don't happen. And then, so that means that in order for me to wake up early, I need to go to bed early. So I have to be pretty tight on that. And then if I'm working during the day, then, carve out that block, make it very productive, no sort of mix and matching. And then 2 hours after work for family time. And then my business, I spend time, have like dedicated blocks for that. If I am taking a gig, my evenings might be a mix of singing gigs and then business preparation. And then like weekends are either I'm blocking a whole day to do focused business activities, or I'm blocking a whole day for family activities, or I'm blocking, a day to do a singing gig. So I have to be I've kind of, this year I did a time audit because I was feeling like I was feeling a little like out of balance, like, okay, I'm feeling drained. I'm not like working out like I want to. And you do have to, that is super important to guard that energy. And a lot of it is saying no to things that are just sort of distractions and not opportunities and not really going to move the needle on either of those fronts. And then and then I do like this extensive mapping of my time in advance of every month, and then going out. And oh my goodness, with family stuff, it becomes like an extra complication where you have to look at their calendar. So this morning I was dropping my husband at the airport and was like, okay, we have this recording, so I we need to leave pretty early, and like so it was a whole thing. But
I'm so
that
sorry.
yeah.
So that means your husband's sitting at the airport waiting much earlier than you. So
That's
I'm sorry
okay.
for that.
The airports are a little crazy these days because of the US like government shutdown. So
Yeah,
so
I'm
it's
gonna be
okay.
experiencing that very soon. So
Oh, there
hopefully
you
it's gonna be
go.
taken care of soon, and I don't have that issue. Now I know that as a soprano, your voice is very very important. But you're doing speaking engagements, you're coaching, you're doing all this other stuff. You're not. It doesn't seem like you get that much rest. So how do you make sure your voice is like top-notch quality?
That's such a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that.
I had
Um,
an interest in singing in my
oh,
past,
oh,
and
cool.
therefore, like I'm asking, like you talked about violin. I did
Yes.
violin for I want to say about 12 years. I was
No,
never very
ah,
good at it,
cool.
but then halfway into high school, I started doing singing competitions and all that kind of stuff. And people ask me the same thing. Don't you
Wow.
think you wasted all that time doing violin? I'm like, no, it's
And you're like,
because of
no
violin.
way.
It's because of violin that I'm able to sing and do well. So
Yeah,
hence I have questions about that too. So yeah,
that's
how do you
awesome.
keep your how do you keep your voice top notch?
Yeah, so there's like I have like kind of like, my go-to rituals before any given gig. It depends on, am I a soloist? Am I in a like a bigger choir? If I'm a soloist, then I kind of baby my voice. Like I'll make sure, first of all, like no drinking, no any of that. Have a good diet, drink lots of water, um, which I can be kind of poor about sometimes. And yeah, make sure that you get physical exercise, that you're in good health because you are an athlete as a singer. It's very athletic and you have to keep your energy up. Make sure to get good rest the day, the week, even before, which can be hard for traveling, singers that are on the go. Um, they say not to get too crazy about it because then it just becomes like a psychological thing. And it's super interesting. Like you have to be able to sing while you're tired, and they say that like if you're a working singer, your average you can just sort of depend on your average, right? Because nobody's ever they have this saying that like the best singing that you'll ever do is by yourself at home, like with no one listening.
In the
So
bathtub.
in the bathroom, yeah. So you have to rely on your average. So your average has to be maintained. So I always make sure that I fit in regular vocal exercising and like, doing my scales and whatnot. And that is something that is maintained because it is like very physical. It can atrophy over time. So that's sort of like when you get to a good performing quality level, that's something that you sort of want to maintain rather than have periods of letting it drop off. So I always do regular vocal exercises and then, yeah, watch my sleep and my diet, and especially leading up to. And if I am performing like day of, I'll try to get on location like very early. And if it's travel, like I'll try to get there the day before so I'm not traveling same day.
Yeah.
And usually you have like some sort of rehearsal period the week before with the orchestra. So that's fine. And then day of, I just, maybe you stretch, like you get in your body and you are not, I'm trying to not do too much. So I'll try to clear my schedule day of, make sure I'm like feeling well rested. So yeah, and then also this is super interesting. Like when I've mixed music and corporate, often people will be like, "Oh, can you sing?" And if it's some big corporate thing, it's not that I don't want to sing it, but if we've been talking, you really have to monitor that. So I'll say like, if I'm gonna sing, like if I get asked to sing for something corporate, it has to be on the first day where we haven't talked and drank all night the day before. So yeah, I was asked to do some singing at like an offsite one time, and I was like silent pretty much leading up to it, and it was like the first day we were there. So so I'm
Very
pretty
Very,
prepared for.
very interesting stuff because I knew a few singers where during a period of time they would say nothing. And if they do say anything, it's like whispers. I'm like, what? What'd you say?
Mm.
And so in the scenario where you were asked to go speak at a corporate event, do some training and whatnot, and on spur of moment they might go, hey, can you sing? Like, does that actually happen?
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Oh, that's a
But
separate fee.
right? I know. Exactly.
Call
Yeah,
my
so
agent.
the one that I was asked to sing at, they asked me in advance, so I was happy to do it because I was already aware that I was doing it. But yeah, n mixing, I'll usually decline.
You mentioned a little bit about how the corporate and the business side has helped with your music side in organizing and scheduling stuff and whatnot. How has the music side helped with your corporate side?
Yeah, yeah. So my managers have told me, which I think I didn't fully appreciate at the time, but I'm very into operations, implementation, software implementation, and now I'm doing program management, which is very a lot of project management at the company level. And so all those skills are involved. First of all, I think that they always say like hire someone who's super busy to if you need something done, because that means that they know how to
Yeah.
manage their time. So I think that over time, that's something that they've pointed out to me like, oh, one, you're super creative with solutioning and problem solving. You think like outside the box. And I think it's because I'm able to pull from multiple disciplines ideas that are across disciplines that maybe are not as present in financial technology, but then I'm pulling them from music, I'm pulling them from other private industries. So, and like now writing or something like that. So performing arts and then also that whole like executive presence. I think that performing arts is amazing for that because you're very aware of your body, you're very aware of your energy and your presence and your voice and the tone, and so I think all of that is great for that. So yeah, just outside the box thinking, creative solutioning, multidisciplinary thinking, and then just the high level project management that it takes to operate at a high level across disciplines.
Totally agreed. And I think a lot of people out there should really try some art stuff. If they're very focused on the analytical things, going out there, taking a course in ballroom dancing or taking a course in singing or something like that, it unlocks a certain part of your brain that you don't usually tap into. And then all of a
Mm,
sudden, when you go back to this world, it's like, hey, wait, I could try this. Or maybe we could do something a little bit different to make it more interesting.
yeah.
And I find that very, very fascinating where people can kind of mix the two together. For yourself, do you ever battle with one side of your mind and the other side of your mind, the one that looks at numbers all the time and the one that goes, wow, everything's colorful and musical?
Yes, I think that one thing that was really surprising to me with the launch of my financial coaching business was my whole business corporate background has been in B2B. It's been in business to business where you show the person the pro forma, and if it makes sense on paper, then they're likely to proceed. However, with the financial coaching stuff, that is extremely personal. It's very heady, it's very emotional, and that's been a change for me. Like, I really need to lean into the psychology. Luckily, I am an artist. I'm very in tune with that. And so that's not a problem for me. I think I actually lean towards that gut instinct. And, when you're in a new venture, sometimes you have to develop the gut. Sometimes you don't have that gut for something. But I think I am inherently more emotional. I tend to go with my intuition, but I have I do like to, obviously validate with data. However, when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to figure out which way to go and you're making a decision, sometimes it's you do have to lean on your gut and less on that, and you have to like have a really good intuition.
It's true. For people out there who wants to get into the coaching area, the speaking area, that's something that you brought into your life because you went from singing, performing, you did all this other stuff, and then now you're speaking, you're doing corporate engagements and coaching. Uh, There's people out there who goes, I can sing, I can perform, but man, once I start talking, was that something natural for you? Because I knew I had the same issue. I could sing on stage. I knew that people may or may not be recording me as I'm singing on stage, but once you put a microphone in front of me and I'm supposed to speak about something, all of a sudden my mind goes blank. So I
Yeah.
went through this period of time working that out. Was that something that you needed to do?
I can totally relate to this. I kind of already knew this about myself because even from going from something, performing something musical to performing straight plays, I am not good at straight plays. Like, I do not like, I'm like, God bless those actors that can just remember all of this text. For me, I find that I have to know sort of like the arc, and then I'm less sticking to scripted things and just more telling from the heart. Like, if I know what I'm trying to say, I don't mind going a little, ad-libbing a little bit. So as long as I know the message I'm trying to deliver, and you have those monikers, like in my book, I have my ARIA money model, which is an
Mhm.
acronym. So as long as I know sort of the arc of the story, and then I'm delivering from the heart, I think that's super helpful. But yeah, it can be nerve-wracking, and if you're trying to stay to a script, you'll just be too in your head and you'll blank out. So that I can totally relate to that.
You mentioned your book. How did you come about getting that book written? Why did you have to write it? And what are some of the reasons why people should pick it up?
Yes. So I wrote it as it is a marketing book. So it's for people to get to know me as a coach, because I found that, people want to connect with you as a human being. That's an extremely vulnerable thing to go over your finances. And so it tells a little bit about me, my upbringing, my background, the breakthroughs that I've had over the years on both the music side and the corporate side, and how, so it's sort of lovely and ties my whole story together. And it goes through my model for getting your mind unstuck when it comes to your finances.
Mm.
So I think it's great because it's a money book, it's a psychology book, but it's storytelling based. It's a quick read, and I think it's impactful because I think it is a common story. Particularly for first generation immigrants, I hope that that is something that resonates with them, that trying to overcome and like sort of start from scratch, and maybe you didn't have any financial role models in your life and you're trying to figure it out and you make a lot of mistakes, but we can turn the course. And it's super interesting. Like I talk about in the book, I thought I was budgeting, but it wasn't until I was sitting in my first commercial real estate job, putting together multi-million dollar property budgets and seeing how very wealthy people manage their money. That's what it took. I had just finished business school, and that's not where I learned the abstract theories about money, but until I was working with these very high net worth individuals, I wasn't able to put it together. That's what really turned my life around, was working with them. And I was like, oh my gosh, why don't they teach this in school? Like, so I was able to put those things together and turn my personal finances around when I saw, oh my gosh, they manage money so differently than we do. I thought, oh, I have an Excel sheet and I have my income and I have my expenses and it's not below zero, so therefore thumbs up.
Hey.
But I didn't have any inherent plan in how to like pay off debt or grow
Mm.
my wealth. So yeah, I just realized that they do things very differently, and that's when I had those aha moments. So I hope that people would pick up my book to get to know more about me if they've been struggling with that paycheck to paycheck cycle, and they are interested in an alternative way of getting that financial knowledge and turning their financial ship around. I would love to work with them so they can get to know me and get that money mindset model for getting unstuck with your money.
Awesome. Well, the book is called Making Money is Simple. And I'm sure lots of people come up and ask you, how do I make it money? How do I make it simple so that I can make more money? What's usually your go-to answer on that? And is there anything that you can share that's practical that people could implement right now that that is either the first or second step of making money simple?
So I think that people often mix goals. I think that you should start with one clear goal. And so I have a simple model like on the tactical side. So the ARIA framework is for the mindset stuff. And then I have a simple model that is for the tactical side. And the S is for starting with a SMART goal. So I think having a clear goal that is time bound and that is one single goal. I think that people try to do too many things at once. And so they can't get there in a time that is sort of inspiring to them and will keep the momentum up. But if you have one clear goal, the thing that I love about money is that um, on paper, by math standards, it's very simple. The money goes up or it goes down. Those are the two levers that you can control. You can control the income side, you can control the expense side. Now, there are practical, creative things that you can do that, I as a coach often will point out to people. But those are the two levers. And so having one clear goal that's time bound, you can what I do is do like reverse engineering. So it comes from like underwriting principles where we project things out and then reverse engineer getting the outcome. But yeah, that's where I would say to start is getting a strategic budget that actually cash flows because you're manipulating those levers.
Well, you also mentioned the mindset of money. And that is usually the first thing you need to tackle before you start implementing any of this stuff, because you could tell them all these great strategies, but when the mind is not working in that frequency, it just doesn't go. So, what is
100%.
the most common mindset that is the wrong mindset when it comes to money?
I think just thinking that nothing can change. Like, I'll talk with prospects and they'll say, I want to change things around, but I don't want to change my lifestyle that much. And I'm like, okay, well, those two things might might not go together. They might cause some friction.
Hmm.
So the Aria money model is one to awaken. That's to realize, like, have the awareness that, hey, something's not going the right direction and I need to turn it around. That the second step is R for reframing your mind. So that's the second step that I think people get caught up on, and that I offer maybe, hey, maybe we should think of it this way. If it hasn't been working for you the past 5 years, maybe something needs to change. Um, maybe we can't keep everything the same and keep expecting that maybe you're going to get a different result. And so you sort of have to put things simply. And I talk about like money triggers, understanding why they're stuck. Like, we do analysis on their finances, but what are the underlying root causes? Is it FOMO? Is it charity? Sometimes people can't say no to their children on things, or they, can't say no to helping out family members, but yet they're drowning themselves. There are some, it's not always just they're spending frivolously. Sometimes it's very difficult root cause things that they need to work through, and they need to see it first and then come up with a plan for how, okay, this is my default behavior. How can we retrain that to a more positive behavior? I also talk about intentional trade-offs. Like, if there's this pile of resources that we have, and it's not unlimited. So, what is the highest and best use of those resources? Like, let's actually put your priorities in order. And then, maybe then you're going to need to make trade-offs. So it's making those invisible opportunity costs visible and then actually prioritizing. Same thing we do with our time and our energy. So those are some of the things that I talk about. But yeah, absolutely. Awaken, reframe. Only after you've done that work can you move on to the other steps, which are setting a new intention for your money and then taking action. But you can't do the action unless you've gone through all of this mind stuff. Because, like you said, sometimes it doesn't matter how obvious something is. If your mind is totally blocked off, you can't see anything.
Exactly. I remember some conversations I had with some of my colleagues and family members and whatnot, and it just doesn't get through to them. 10 years later, they bring something up like it's a brand new thing. I'm like, I told you this 10 years ago. You could have just
Yeah,
implemented it.
absolutely.
Now you're behind, but anyway.
I've had the same experience in music. I've had teachers tell me things that I was just not ready to hear. Like, not that I literally couldn't, I literally could not understand their instruction because I was not mature enough at the time. And then a decade later, I'm like, oh, I know what that teacher is saying now. So
You-
sometimes you just have to go through life and experience things and fall
Mhm.
flat and make mistakes, and then you realize it later on.
Yeah,
Dang, that Fong was right.
you go back to that teacher or prof with your tail between your legs and say, I'm sorry. I gave you a hard time.
I wasn't ready for you.
So when it comes to the financial coaching aspect, you're looking for people who are potentially struggling with their income and their finances. Uh, in the corporate side, what are you looking for in that, from that standpoint? And what's the perfect or ideal clientele that you're looking for in that area?
So on the corporate side, I work for a startup financial technology company that is actually not so startup now. They're still pre-IPO. They're Series D, but they've matured now. We work with GPs, so across a variety of commercial real estate, private equity, venture capital, also infrastructure resources, land resources. So any GP that is in alternative investments or traditional investments or alternative, but on the private side. So our company is trying to do with private markets what already exists on the public markets. So on the public markets, you can log into your Fidelity, Schwab, your whatever sort of account, and you can make trades. However, on the private side, I know that you're an investor, that that is much more difficult to navigate. Often you're dealing with paperwork and mailing stuff back and forth, and so what that company is trying to do is digitize the private market side. And so that work is very exciting and I think extremely needed in the private equity market. It's also making standardization where there is none. That it does exist on the public side, but it does not exist on the private side. So it's a software company that both digitizes and makes the private markets very accessible through a standardization of those assets. So our clients are GPs that where their clients are the LPs of the deals.
Now, with your experience with all this stuff, the private equity, real estate, stocks, trades, for somebody who is, okay, they're getting past the paycheck to paycheck, they need to make their money grow. What are some of your tips or advice as to what should they go into first? Should they start looking to real estate first? Should they start looking into trades first? Like, what's that first step?
Yeah, I think that personally I love real estate. That's where I started was in, well, solar and commercial real estate. So both tangible assets. I like tangible assets. I like things I can see. They make sense to me.
So no
Um,
crypto.
I'm not really a crypto person. Because I don't mind if people have like some small
Yeah.
allocation towards crypto if they are into it and want to do it, that's cool. I just don't get it. Like so I'm not going to invest in
My
something
theory on
I
that
don't
is
understand.
have some of
Mhm.
it, but if it's gone,
Yeah.
don't worry about
It's gone. Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. So I like tangible assets. I get them and I studied them, so I just understand them more. However, I do think that they are capital intensive, so I
Yeah.
don't advise people that are in trying to turn their finances around to start with that because you just need a lot of capital. Like they can be lucrative, especially if you understand what you're doing and you're buying at a low cost basis, but um maybe not in this market. It's not the best as far as like interest rate wise. And then also, it requires a lot of capital to do those deals. So I don't recommend that as a first because I do have people that reach out to me because they're interested in that. But yeah, so I always recommend they start on the public company side.
You also are helping new talents develop their careers and navigate their careers. What type of how do you find the right person for you? Like I'm sure a lot of people goes, yeah, I can sing. I'm like, no, you can't. So how do you find that new talent?
So mostly people will reach out to me. I'm not taking any singing clients. However, as a senior manager at my company, I had many reports that I worked with and helped grow their careers. I love working with early career folks. Um, one one framework that I really like is the three E's, which is exposure, education, and experience. So that's something that I use as a guiding principle for them and help them, if they need to fill gaps with education, show them what they need to do there. If they need opportunities of exposure, I'm super happy to help them navigate that and see how they can get their way in. I think it's very difficult in a remote. It's both easier and a little more difficult, if that makes sense, in a remote environment because it's easier than ever to connect with people on LinkedIn. So but there might be competition or they might have like a flood of stuff in their inbox if that is a thing. And, back in the day, you could sit side by side with someone and say, hey, like, oh, that person is super interesting on my company. Can I take you to coffee? And you could just go and you could shadow meetings and like be in the room literally and just be a fly on the wall. I think that's more difficult to do these days. However, you can easily reach out to people that you admire uh, faster than ever on LinkedIn. So it's a double-edged sword when it comes to that.
I also have to ask, like, you performed in front of some amazing people. What were those experiences like? And does that compare to you speaking in front of like thousands of people? Like, what do you prefer?
Yeah. So I I think that those performances were when I was in the military. So that's how I was able to get in front of those people. Uh, in the military, you're singing sort of limited, like mainly I'm singing the national anthem. So, I'm not singing some great like opera work or anything like that. Not that the national anthem's not great, but uh, and so those were a special part in my memory. But some of the, great operatic literature or like orchestral literature are my favorite gigs. And I think that singing in small rooms where they can see you, they can see the whites of your eyes. I think that's much more intimidating actually than singing in a big theater where it's a black box and you can't really see anything. Then I feel actually more free on that kind of setting. I don't, maybe you can relate as well. I think it's actually terrifying when it's you can like see everything
Oh yeah,
and you can see everybody looking at you. I think that's
definitely.
actually way scarier than I'm much more comfortable in like a black box theater.
You just look up a little bit. So
Yeah, you
that
just look at
that's
the
the
light.
black part. You don't look down at the people's faces.
Yeah.
So like, what? Let's say if something comes up and goes, "Hey, you get to perform at this stage, or you get to speak on this stage." What would your dream stages be? And if both of them come to you, which one would you want to do more?
Um, I think it would have to be a piece of art, like musical literature that was like some sort of dream role or something. If I was going to prioritize that over the speaking at this point, because I am trying to grow the financial coaching business and gain more speaking opportunities. So right now, like we talked about prioritization, I would have to lean into the speaking at this point.
Awesome.
Unless it was some sort of musical dream role.
So at this point, what else are you looking for? What's your next big thing that's coming up? I know you're growing your business, but what are you excited for?
Yeah. Right now, so as we record this, we're nearing the end of 2025. And so people tend to look at their finances. So I'm sort of in a sprint right now to prepare for a big launch, like a big coaching cohort at the top of 2026. So that's what I'm preparing for. I'm sort of getting my ducks in a row with my platform. And I am trying to gear up the speaking side. So looking at that, exploring that in 2026 as well. So I would say those two things. On the corporate side, I've started a new role. So that's super interesting. Working for the office of the CEO and managing their programs, so program management. So that's I'm going to dive into that as well. And then personally speaking, my husband is active duty military, and we are gearing up for another move actually in 2026. So I have a lot going on, a lot of pans on the fire.
Awesome. Let's say you're on the main stage and you get to share another message, one message that you want everybody to remember you for. What would that be?
I would say take calculated risks early in life. I think that I followed my curiosities, and I think that they haven't let me down. I wish I had taken more calculated risk. I think I was very fear-based. I operated out of fear too much in my 20s, so that would be something that I would try to do differently. But one thing that I think I did right was I always followed my curiosity. So I would highly recommend people doing that because I don't think that you'll regret that at the end of your life.
Mhm. Well, having said that, going back, how would you have done that differently? How would you have addressed the fear or faced the fear? Is it by reaching out to other people who's been there and done that and kind of leverage some knowledge and wisdom from those people? Or is it just a matter of you putting on that mindset and just going head on? Like what would you have done differently?
I think there were certain things that I counted myself out for no reason. Like I was just going too many steps ahead. Like, oh, I probably won't place at the top of this. So what's even the point? And what I totally missed, and I did reverse that, as I gained maturity and realized like you shouldn't count yourself out. Like just throw your hat in the ring, and if they say no, that's fine. If they say yes, how wonderful. What I didn't realize, and later on in life, I did do some bigger competitions, and what I totally missed was the feedback is so valuable. Feedback, even if it's crickets, is valuable. If it's a miss, you're like, oh, need to pivot because that didn't get any reception. However, you'll never know if you don't try. So I think that that's something that I totally missed earlier on was um, some things, even if you are not going to be like number one out the gate, that's the feedback is inherently valuable, positive or constructive.
Well, very well said, and those are great words to live by. So I hope everybody takes that to heart. Before I let you go, I got five quick rapid fire questions for you. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. All right.
Okay.
You're stranded on this deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence.
Chocolate.
Perfect. Somebody who says something they actually want to eat. Uh, somebody said tofu. I'm like, really? Really? That's like what? But anyway,
I'm like, maybe chocolate would start to be gross after a while. Bread or something like that.
Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, we love your story, very inspirational. We would love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?"
Hmm. Um, Selena Gomez.
He shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, I got casted to play you. Let's hang out. Let's have some fun." What does that like look like?
Uh, having fun. Um, I would say getting outdoors and going on a gorgeous hike.
Awesome. You're in a car ride and you're there for hours, and there's only one song that you can listen to over and over and over again. What is that song that you don't mind listening to and you will not get frustrated with?
I'm gonna pick an artist. It's gonna be something poppy like Britney Spears or Lady Gaga or something like that.
Great answer. Now you took their whole entire repertoire. All right. Give me a number from one to four.
Four.
One, two, three, four. So roller coaster. If you had to use roller coaster as a metaphor for success, how is success like a roller coaster?
Oh, such a great
I
metaphor.
know. I'm like, perfect. You got this is
Perfect
amazing
metaphor.
fun.
Yeah, like I said, this reminds me of singing. So you can only expect to operate at your average. However, there's going to be highs and lows. And so it's very valuable to know that so that you don't expect that things are just going to go like this. But this is actually what it is. And hopefully it's an upward trajectory. So I think roller coasters perfect for that.
Nice. Then so that's how success is like a roller coaster. I gotta say, when you said that you have to bank on the average and be able to deal with the highs and lows, but your average is where your money is at. I think that was a very good takeaway because I think lots of people aim for something and trying to maintain that for so long
Mm.
that burnout outcomes or they never reach it and they feel disappointed and they forget that their average is probably better than they expected. So that's very, very important. So thank you very much. Any final words from you? And again, what's the best way for people to pick up your book and how do people find you?
Yeah, so I will start with you know, have courage. So I'll go back to my Arya money model. The first step in changing your finances is to awaken and realize there's a problem. And if you have been banging your head against the wall for several years and you need to try something different, get a new perspective, I would look into financial coaching. And where they can reach me is my website, makingmoneyissimple.com. I'm also on Instagram at Making Money is Simple and other social media, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Facebook at Making Money is Simple.
Awesome. Thank you. So everybody out there, make sure you connect with Veronica, pick up her book, check out her content. And if you ever want to hear some amazing singing, check out her videos online as well. I did a deep dive of that and wow, very, very great stuff. Great voice, very, very impressive. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And so again, Veronica, Fong, until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.